World of Warcraft has always been a game full of secrets and hidden mysteries, especially in the earlier days of vanilla. So I thought, you know what, let's take a look at some of the lesser known facts and secrets from the earliest days of WoW that you might not have known. Some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about will be more known than others, and for the sake of ease, Vanilla and the 2019 Classic re-release will be banded together, meaning that some of the video could still apply to the Classic game we know today, and other parts will be in relation to the Vanilla period. So strap in and grab yourself a snack, as we're about to scratch the surface of the lesser known side of Classic WoW. Let's start it off with one that still applies to the Classic version today. If I was to ask you what the longest corpse run in the game through normal means would be, you'd probably thinking along the lines of at the bottom of Ragnaros, in the Dark Whisper Gorge of Winterspring, or dying in the Stormwind Tram area towards Ironforge as a Horde player, for example. But the longest corpse run in the game through normal means is actually if you fall off the cliff at Bloodvenom Post in Felwood. You would appear at the closest graveyard in Darkshire, and although that graveyard is pretty close to your corpse, the only way to reach your corpse would be to run across Ashenvale and back up through Felwood, which will roughly take you about 20 minutes. But now let's look at something a little faster. The fastest Ragnaros kill in Vanilla before the Burning Crusade was by a guild called the Silver Horde, who took 1 warrior, 1 paladin, 1 priest, 1 druid, 3 warlocks and 33 mages into Molten Core, and managed to defeat Ragnaros in as little as 1 minute and 16 seconds, which is honestly quite impressive for its time. At this rate you could down Ragnaros 15 times before doing the entire Bloodvenom Falls death run, and still have an entire minute to spare. Now while we're on the topic of Molten Core, during the earlier patches of Vanilla, due to a bug, Tier 1 and Tier 2 both used to drop from various bosses inside Molten Core. It was swiftly hotfixed, and the majority of Tier 2 was taken away from the loot tables of Molten Core, and this is largely why you could always obtain Tier 2 legs from Ragnaros, because although they had realised the bug was causing both tier sets to drop even before Blackwing Lair was released, Blizzard at this time had a fascination with Tier 2 dropping from bosses that were either more difficult or more epic to kill. Ragnaros for the Tier 2 legs, Elixir for the Tier 2 helm, and the rest of the Tier 2 set that was reintroduced back into the game during the Blackwing Lair patch. Did you know if you kill and skin a sheep, you sometimes can actually get woolcloth? Now, if I was to ask you what the rarest mount ever within World of Warcraft was, what would you say it is? If you said the fluorescent green Mechanistrider, you'd actually be right. Only one person in the history of the game has officially had this mount, and that player was a player called Nosh from the EU realm of Frostmane. The mount was unavailable to obtain within the game, however Nosh supposedly had issues with his original Mechanistrider and had deleted it, which when being helped out from a game master at the time to recover and fix his mount, was mistakenly given the fluorescent green Mechanistrider. Nosh however kept playing World of Warcraft throughout many expansions before sadly trying to sell his account during Warlords of Draenor. Knowing that he had a one-of-a-kind mount, had tried listing it on a well-known cheating site, and the bidding for his account was rumoured to have exceeded the price of $15,000. But of course, with having such a unique item and being extremely well known, Blizzard got wind of this and rightfully stripped the mount from his account, which now means that the fluorescent green Mechanistrider is an extinct mount. Now, I do quickly want to touch on the point that it's relatively unknown exactly when Nosh had received the mount, whether it was actually in Vanilla or in the early stages of the Burning Crusade, but I still wanted to include this in the video because it's such a unique story. The fluorescent green Mechanistrider did make a comeback however during Phase 2 of Season of Discovery, as it had a small drop chance from the last boss in Gnomeregan. Taurens are so fat, big boned, that they are the only race unable to fit through this window next to the high elf that grants the entrance to Molten Core. While we're talking about Torren, did you know that Torren is an anagram for nature? Now let's talk about a certain ability in the game, the mage spell called Blink. This appears to have a pretty simple icon of a face with a glistening eye. This may just be me, but I for the longest time had no clue this was actually an icon of a dwarf. Most probably because icons are so small, sometimes they are kinda hard to tell what's going on. To this day, I'd probably still get half of them wrong. But you might be thinking, hang on, why has a mage spell got a dwarf as an icon? Well, if we crank back time all the way to the WoW beta, dwarf mages were initially going to be a thing. Even the original WoW game manual stated that dwarf mage was a playable race and class combo. So what happened? Why didn't it end up being released as a playable combo? Rumour had it that Blizzard thought it would skew the balance in favour of the Alliance for having too many different race and class combos, so they removed the ability for Dwarf Mages to be a thing. Yeah, believe it or not, they actually did try to balance some parts of vanilla. Now, while we're around this time period of vanilla, you're probably well aware of people dying within duels to various damage over time effects, spell reflex, and just warlocks in general. But did you know that very early on, if you were to duel another player, there would be no countdown timer and the duel would start instantly? This quite obviously gave the massively unfair advantage to the person that was accepting the duel, and it wasn't until patch 1.2 in vanilla where the 3-second countdown rule was introduced into the game.
I killed 2 dwarfs in the morning, I killed 2 dwarfs at night, I killed 2 dwarfs in the afternoon, and then I feel alright. I killed 2 dwarfs in time of peace and 2 in time of war. I killed 2 dwarfs before I killed 2 dwarfs, and then I killed 2 more.
That was a troll joke that was removed in the later parts of vanilla going into early TBC, and it was a reference to a song called Smoke 2 Joints. Now, it's pretty unclear on a solid reason why it was removed. Some say it was because it was drug related and offended people even way back then for some reason. This joke, however, did not feature in the classic WoW 2019 re-release despite there supposedly being no changes, though this could be because the server ran on the end patch and it could well have been taken out just before the end patch of vanilla. If you're a fan of Warcraft 3 and saw the Arthas Betrayal cinematic, you can lower the music volume in game and max out the ambience volume to hear the sounds of the cinematic at the entrance of Undercity. You will hear the bells as you enter, followed by the cheers from the crowd, with rose petals scattered all around, blood within the throne room from the crown falling to the floor, and also the speech from the cinematic between Arthas and his father, the king. Let's give it a little listen. Another Easter egg that was put into WoW during vanilla was the children of Goldshire, who spawn at around 7 AM server time before running all the way up to Stormwind and back down to the house just above Goldshire. If you go inside the house around this time, you will find the children standing in a pentagram format with eerie music, banshee cries, ghoul noises, and the voice of Cthulhu saying, "You will die." Now, you probably already know what female trolls used to look like in the alpha version of the game, but here's a reminder. Yep, that is absolutely terrifying. This is probably more scary than those children of Goldshire. A completely useless fact to know is that all Night Elf guards inside Darnassus are female. You will find many male NPCs, but none of those will be guards. This also applies to a few other Night Elf settlements around the world, including Astronar in Ashenvale. Another quick fact to know, but this time could be considered useful, is that there are no engineering trainers in Thunderbluff or any other town inside Mulgore. But there is an engineering trainer by the name of Twizwick Sprocketgrind, who hides inside a mine at a distant spot in the northeast of Mulgore, which unsurprisingly not many people know about. The very first zones that were designed and created was Elwynn Forest and Westfall, which were created way back in the creation of the base game in 2001. The contrast to this and one of the last zones ever created in vanilla was Silithus. If we take a look at the original WoW cinematic and have a look at the map, you will see many differences in zones, including Silithus, which is missing because it's yet to be created, and when the WoW cinematic was made, it was based on an alpha version of WoW where Silithus was not yet in. When Silithus was created and the game was released, however, the zone was a shell. It had no content and no mobs. All of the content, the mobs, and the quests were added in later patches of vanilla. Now, there is an absolute ton of secrets, facts, and mysteries from vanilla or classic WoW, and this is only just scratching the surface. If you want to see a follow-up video with even more, I could turn it into a mini-series. Just let me know below if this is interesting and it's something you want to see more of. Also, I'll probably do a mini-series of the many things within vanilla that was never officially released, that got scrapped from the game's alpha, meaning it never saw the light of day. But let me know if there's any facts that you know about vanilla World of Warcraft that I didn't mention in this video, and thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.